Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Beyond the ARC podcast for the first time on film. I am Rob Howes alongside Josh Stauner. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Our first time on our new YouTube channel. You can still listen to us on Spotify if that's how you listen to us, but we are now on YouTube as well. So go check it out. And of course, we also have Austin Young. Austin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. This is an exciting time for our podcast here.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. We've heard from a few people that the biggest way to get off the ground is by having some video to your podcast. So that is what we are doing today. A pretty typical episode. So we'll be highlighting this week in the American Rivers Conference in all sports, then going around D3, and of course, everybody's favorite segment, Josh's Fun Fact of the Day. And it'll be a good one here today for Josh's Fun Fact of the Day. So let's go ahead and start to this week in the ARC.
Yes, and shout out Frank, our producer, for always being the man behind the scenes, especially now with this YouTube channel. He's going to be rocking it. Excited for you guys to see it.
Absolutely. Frank doing all the really heavy lifting behind the scenes, helping us get live on camera. So with this week in the ARC, let's head to women's soccer. Josh, what do we got going?
So first off, University of Dubuque got a 2-0 win against Simpson, a goal and an assist apiece for Alyssa Tranquita, and she leads UD for both goals and assists. She has 8 goals now and 6 assists for the season, and that was a pretty tough loss for Simpson on the road. And then Loris, of course, got another big win, 5-0 against Co. 5 different goal scores. I really don't see anybody beating Loris for the remainder of the season.
Absolutely. And Loris and UD, it looks like will be the two teams that get the first round bye. Unless UD gets upset, they had a tie against Nebraska Wesleyan, which will go against them. But now that they've beat Wartburg and beaten Simpson, it really looks like they're in a good spot to be the 2 seed unless they can upset Loris and get that 1 seed.
Yeah, and then Wartburg had a 1-1 tie against Nebraska Wesleyan. Sammy Webster for Wartburg got that goal, and she leads the conference in goals. She has 11 so far this season, and we'll see if she can close out the season, keep scoring, and get that golden boot. And then, of course, Loris, yet another big win, 3-0 against that Wartburg team. Kind of just a routine win for Loris. They still have only let in 1 goal all season, came in their 3rd game of the year, and they lead the conference in goals scored. They have 46. The next closest is Simpson with 32. So just utter dominance from Loris this season. And moving on to playoffs, it's creeping up closer. Loris, UD, and Simpson have all guaranteed a playoff spot now. But we are nearing the end of conference play. Like I said, there are about 2 or 3 games left, all happening this next week. Wartburg, Luther, and Central kind of round out the middle of the table. They all have 7 points. And then BV, who has 3 points, Nebraska Wesleyan, who has 1, and Co. has 0 points, round out the table on the women's soccer side. And then moving on to men's soccer, Wartburg had a big 2-1 win against Nebraska Wesleyan. And Nebraska Wesleyan actually led that game at halftime. Then Flory Gembo tied it up in the 69th minute for Wartburg. And then Blake Whitlow got his first goal of the year and the game winner for Wartburg in that one. Simpson finally break out of their streak and get their first win of the year. Mitchell Dixon, their top scorer, got the goal there to get them their first conference win. And then Wartburg beat Loris 1-0. Wartburg, that was Loris's first loss of the conference year. Wartburg grabbed their 4th win in that one. And with that, they move into first place, just 1 point ahead of Loris in the table.
And that was probably the biggest game of the week on the men's soccer side. Wartburg getting that huge win, very important to take down Loris there. If Loris had won that one, they could almost just cruise their way to the 1 seed. But now with Wartburg in the league, still a lot of time left. You know how quickly things can change in the American Rivers Conference, especially on the soccer side. But Wartburg now has the step up on Loris. They have the tiebreaker if it comes down to that, but they are a point ahead of them now, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and then moving on, Luther beat Co 4-1. Luther pretty much dominated that whole game. Paul Means picked up 2 goals for himself, and Co did manage to score very late in the game. There was about a minute left. They only put 3 shots up that whole game, and they put 1 in to prevent the shutout for Luther. And then Central got themselves a good 3-2 win against Nebraska Wesleyan. They were actually down 2-0, and then in the last 20 minutes of the game, they were able to score 3 and get the win out of that one. And as far as the table on the men's side, Wartburg, Loris, Luther, and Central are all kind of fighting for first right now. Wartburg leads the pack with 12 points, and then the other 3 all have 11 points.
So Josh and Rob, this is open up to you two, but I'll ask mainly Josh as a soccer guy. Who do you see taking this battle? I mean, 4-way battle. I mean, it's anybody's ball game, but who do you think is going to take that first seed overall in this conference?
I think it'll be Wartburg, like me and Rob predicted at the beginning of the year. Obviously, like Rob said, that Wartburg-Loris game was really important to determine standings, and they're pretty much the 2 top teams in the conference. Wartburg were able to get the win, so I think they'll pull out with the 1 seed.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with him there. I think Wartburg, just as the season goes along, most of the time they seem to play a lot better towards the end of the year. You see that in the conference tournament last couple of years. Not even the 1 seed last year made it to the NCAA tournament. And I think even if they aren't the 1 seed this year, they're going to win that conference tournament. But I think this year they will take that 1 seed. I don't really know who's going to be second. I think it'll be Loris, but I think Central's a lot better than a lot of people think. Simpson tied against Central, which is a game that we saw. I haven't watched any of these other teams. Played a little bit for Loris, but not too much. But it's going to be really interesting to see who's fighting for that second spot and then 3rd and 4th as well, getting that home field advantage in the first round. But that's all we got for men's and women's soccer today. Thank you, Josh, as always, our main soccer guy here with that coverage. Now moving on to cross country, and Wartburg still got it. They almost took down UW La Crosse on the men's side for the Augustana Interregional out in Rock Island, Illinois, one of the biggest D3 meets of the year. Wartburg only lost to La Crosse by 12 points. And La Crosse, everybody thought they were just going to dominate that field. Wartburg shows up, run very well. Isaiah Hammerand shows why he is still a top runner in the country. He had a very good meet. I believe he won that meet last year and then kind of fell off after that. Didn't have a great track season, but Hammerand is finally back, so it'll be really interesting to see Wartburg if they can just take those extra couple of steps and take down La Crosse at the national meet in the Carolinas in a few weeks. And then out in Peoria, Illinois, that's where we were, the Simpson team was. Central men and women looked very impressive at the Bradley Pink Classic. The Central men got second. The women's team also very close to the top. I believe they were 4th behind a couple D1 schools in Grand Valley State, who's one of the best D2 schools or NAIA schools. I'm not sure which one, but they're ranked second in their respective division nonetheless. So a couple of very good schools, and that was Central doing that without Peyton Steffen, their best runner for the last 3 years. So very impressive there out of Central. The men's side took down Simpson by quite a bit. James Johnson didn't have a very great race there. Drew Angler stepped up, but Central really ran really well at that meet in Peoria, Illinois. Nobody else was too impressive this week. Loris, the worst out of all the nationally ranked teams. They'll drop in the rankings this week for sure. At the Augustana Interregional, Isaac Bourne ran decently, not as well as he could have, Loris's top runner, and really nobody else on the team had a fantastic race. So on the cross-country side, it's really looking like it might be even tougher than we may have thought for a 2-bid American Rivers Conference, 2 teams from the American Rivers Conference to make that national meet.
So, Rob, what's next for Simpson as we look into a couple weeks? We're not too far off from the conference meet. Is that what's next, or is there a meet in between those?
So for Simpson, for us, it is the conference meet will be the next meet of the year. I believe that's the same way for most teams. I think Luther has a dual meet with maybe UW La Crosse. I don't know how that's going to look later on this week or at the end of this week or this coming weekend. So I'm not exactly sure how that one will look, if it'll be a full 8K, if it'll just be like a workout type effort. But we'll see what happens there with Luther cross country. But for most teams, the conference meet in Dubuque will be the next meet, and they changed that course up a little bit. I'll talk about that a little bit more next week, but they changed the course from last time, so it's going to be a lot faster of times this year at the conference meet, so really looking forward to that. But that's all we got for cross country today. Josh, what's going on the volleyball side?
So in the volleyball side, for the most part, everybody kind of beat the teams they were supposed to and lost to the teams they were supposed to, except for Simpson, which I'll talk about that. So starting off, Wartburg got a big 3-set win against Simpson. It was Simpson's first loss in the conference. Obviously, they were 3-0 undefeated. And then with that win, Wartburg jumped ahead of them in the standings. And then, of course, can't talk volleyball and not talk about UD. They got a narrow 3-2 win against Nebraska Wesleyan, which means they're still undefeated in conference, 5-0. So I think they've got that 1 seed there. And then Co beat Simpson in 5 sets, 3-2. So like I said, Simpson went from 3-0 undefeated and looking really, really good, maybe a 2nd or 3rd seed in the conference, to now after this week they're 3-2. And I mean, they'll still make playoffs, but I was hoping for a 2nd seed, and I don't think we'll see that out of them. But there are still a couple games to go. But yeah, UD and Co lead the conference. Like I said, UD is 5-0, and then Co is right behind them, 4-1. And I think for that last playoff spot for that 6th seed, it might be a fight. There are 3 teams that are really close. Central's 2-2, Nebraska Wesleyan's 2-3, and Loras is 2-3. So we could see a fight for that last playoff spot here.
Absolutely. It's going to be really interesting later on down the road who can take that last spot. It seems like Nebraska Wesleyan 2-3 could be 4-1, maybe even 5-0. They've been very close with some very good teams. As you mentioned, lost 3-2 to UD. They lost 3-2 to Simpson as well. So Nebraska Wesleyan, I think they will definitely be in. They'll be one of the either 5 or 6 seed. I would put Central over Loras at the moment, but it's going to be really tough to tell. And then I think the biggest battle left of the year. Now I think UD has the 1 seed clinched, but Wartburg plays at Co on November 5th, and that is both of those teams' last conference match. Both teams could have 1 loss going into that one, and that could be who ends up getting that first round bye in the 2 seed. So it'll be really interesting to see what Wartburg can do there against Co in that one. So it'll be really interesting there. That's all we got inside for volleyball. Next, the man himself, Austin Young. A little more info on this topic, but we have the football side, and no really big surprises on the football side this weekend. Everybody won the games they should have. Everybody lost the games they should have. Loras had a very good first half against Wartburg this weekend, but the second half was all Knights there. They were down 13-6 and came back and ended up winning 40-20, but they were up 40-13 at one point in that game. So really Wartburg dominating the second half as they do against a lot of teams. Simpson dominating Luther.
Luther, they had some fight. Obviously, Simpson was the better team and honestly got the win, but that Luther team was gritty all 4 quarters, and even though they knew they were down, they knew that they were probably not going to be able to make a comeback, they still showed all efforts at all times, and probably one of the best 0-17s I think I've ever seen as far as that goes. So Luther, hope they continue to play well and maybe try to keep games competitive. I know they still have Co left to play and Central, I believe, but we'll see what they can do. As far as that game, it was a fun game. Jaden Thorson had a massive game after a stumbling against Co, and Noah Craycraft been quiet so far this year as far as catches for touchdowns and yards, but he had 11 catches for 230 yards and all 4 touchdowns that Jaden Thorson was accounting for as well. Jaden had 450 yards himself in the air, but Noah Craycraft is going to be my official American River Conference Player of the Week. 2 players in a row, but that's an unbelievable performance. I don't think we see that often in this conference like that.
Absolutely. Noah Craycraft with a fantastic game. 4 touchdowns, 230 receiving yards. That's just fantastic out of Noah Craycraft. Luther in that game had a couple tricks up their sleeves, a surprise onside kick to start the game. They recovered it, but were called offsides. And Simpson really just stuffed it down their throat on the first drive, were able to score a quick touchdown against Luther and just dominated early on. But like you said, Luther had a lot of fight in that game, which is always good to see from a team that was 0-6, now 0-7.
Yeah, and looking at Simpson's schedule as well for the rest of the year, there's no gimmies. Like University of Dubuque, they're going to come in. They're all high off that win last week. And then looking forward, Loris is obviously, I mean, they've taken Central and Wartburg, the 2 undefeated teams left in this conference, down like to the first half, playing them really well. And then looking to the Central game, obviously that's going to be a tough game to get for Simpson, but nothing is completely out of the picture in this league, especially with when you see those games and how they're played. And then capping off that year at Nebraska Wesleyan, there's no gimmies for Simpson, and they got to want to go get it more than the other teams.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned with Luther, they do play on Saturday, October 25th. Then they have their bye week, and then they play at home against the University of Dubuque, and then they play at Loris. So those last 2 games really possible for Luther to maybe sneak away with an upset, especially that last game at Loris. You never really know what you're going to get when you go down to the Rock Bowl. Really going to be interesting there. But Luther, like you said, they're a better team than they were last year. They're a better team than they were 2 years ago. It's just a tough conference to play in, and it's not easy to score some points. But with that, this coming week, Simpson versus Dubuque, of course, a big game for both of those teams, probably to see who finishes 4th in the American Rivers Conference. You got Co versus Luther, as we mentioned, BV versus Loris. I know Loris is going to want some revenge. That was a game BV won last year that Loris probably thinks they should have taken from the Beavers. And then, of course, the biggest game of the year in the American Rivers Conference, Wartburg takes on Central. Austin, what do you expect to see from that one?
You're going to see no offense, I don't believe, in this game. Both teams hang their hats on defense, and especially the Wartburg team that we've seen at Simpson a couple of weeks ago. That's a team that just hangs their hat on defense, and then on offense, running the ball down your throat, trying to expose your interior defensive line and linebackers, and ultimately that's what Central does too. So I don't think we're going to see much scoring in this game at Wartburg in Waverly, but I do think it's going to be a very competitive game. Right now, I would probably give the nod to Wartburg. I won't lie, I did not think they would win that co-matchup, and yet they found a way to win and win decently versus the Cohawks. But right now, I think Central has everything that they need to go into Waverly and knock off Wartburg, and that would be a huge upset, in my opinion, as far as the rankings go. But we'll see. I mean, anything's possible for that matchup. It's going to be very exciting to see. Obviously, I'll be doing my responsibilities here versus Dubuque on homecoming week here at Simpson, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think Central does have a better offense than Wartburg does this year. I believe Central has just a more well-rounded offense. Wartburg's running backs are very good as usual, but I think Central's offense has just a few more weapons. Wartburg's quarterback situation hasn't been great this year, so it'll be really interesting if Central brings their best game. I think they can take down the Knights. Of course, we'll get all of our predictions later on this week on our Instagram, but yeah, I think right now, I'm not sure who I'd take to win that game. I think it'll be really interesting.
Now, if somebody had a Say McWilliams on their team, it might be a little easier to decide who would have that game. But obviously, they don't, because that man belongs to the Loris Dewhawks. But we will see what happens.
So that's all we have for Around the ARC this week. Now we'll head to Around D3, starting off with what we'll consider the small stuff this week, but not really the small stuff. Curry College had a 71-27 win over Nichols College, both Massachusetts schools. Running back Monty Quinn for Curry College with 522 yards on only 20 carries with 7 touchdowns. That's the NCAA record across all divisions for most rushing yards in a game. First player ever to break the 500-yard barrier. Austin, what does it take? You're a former offensive lineman. What does it take to get 522 yards in a single game on the ground?
If I was one of those offensive linemen, I don't know if I would be at practice still yet if they go on Mondays, because it takes a lot of determination from all 5 of those. From tackle to tackle, it takes a lot of determination to say, we're going to pound it down your throats for 522 yards. That's unbelievable. I think that's how many yards Simpson had in the game total between passing and running. I know that we had about 120 yards on the ground. Obviously, Jaden Thorson had 450. So for 522 yards, I mean, that's a big credit to that offensive line. But obviously, man carrying the rock, Monte Quinn, congratulations to him on that record. That's a pretty nice record to have, and I don't know if we will be ever be able to say that record's going to be ever broken.
522 rushing yards from just one player. It's nuts. Like, how do you get that many rushing yards? How does Monte Quinn still have his legs after that performance on Saturday? Some running backs in D3 are very happy if they get 1,000 yards in a season. A lot of running backs are very happy if they get 1,000 yards in a season, because that means 100 yards per game in D3. He got over half of that in one game. That's just very difficult for me to wrap my head around. So Monte Quinn for Curry College. We don't have an official Austin Young Division III Athlete of the Week, but I'm sure he would be your D3 Athlete of the Week.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. Easily the player of the week.
Absolutely. And next we'll go on to Coast Guard. The Coast Guard unveiled their new uniforms that they will wear for the Secretary's Cup against the United States Merchant Marine Academy. And boy, are they awesome. The nice, like, black and gold-ish, but off colors for both of them. Kind of like what you see out of Army-Navy uniforms in those games. The Secretary's Cup, it'll be played on November 15th at Fenway Park in Boston. Man, those jerseys are awesome. I know Josh got to see some of those uniforms. Josh, what did you think about them?
They're so nice. I'm always a sucker for some black and gold, and they're sweet.
Absolutely. Austin, have you seen these uniforms?
I have not yet, but I'm now very intrigued to see what they look like.
Absolutely. And we'll put those up on the screen for you that are watching on YouTube. But those uniforms for United States Coast Guard Academy, just fantastic. So lastly, around D3, probably the biggest news around Division III athletics is that the WIAC, the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, is doing pay-per-view for tournaments and championships. They'll be charging $10 a game, and it'll be a little bit more for select sports, $25 for a full tournament pass, and they will charge more for select sports. Some teams have used Flow Sports for their just regular streaming services. I know we said it wasn't as big of an announcement earlier in the year for the American Rivers Conference that they are sticking with Sidearm Sports for their streaming platform. But now I'd say that's huge news, because in my opinion, I do not think if you are watching a Division III sport in any sport, you should have to pay to watch that game. These players don't get scholarships. These players don't get paid to play sports. People should not have to pay to watch them unless it's in person. It's very different if you're watching them in person, but it's probably more expensive to watch a single game for $10 than it is to actually go to the game for any WIAC tournament.
Yeah, not everybody can go, especially like the people from being recruited from around the country in the WIAC. Like, if they're from like Arizona, it's not necessarily the easiest for them to travel, and they just want to watch their kids play football. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous in my opinion. Here in Iowa high school football, the Iowa High School Sports Network did the same thing not too long ago. It was free for the longest time, and even the state championship games were on like local channels. But now you have to pay $10 a game, I believe now, or it's like $20 for the entire tournament once they get to the semifinals up at the UNI Dome. But honestly, I agree with everything you said, Rob. I mean, I kind of think it's ridiculous that they had to pay to watch a game online.
And to go along with that, the High School Athletic Association has finally taken that away after last year. They're going back to their own streaming service. They did not own the Iowa High School Sports Network, And the Athletic Association now, as a nonprofit, is just going back to streaming games like the Girls High School Athletic Union does. They do it on YouTube. I'm not sure how the Men's Athletic Association will do it, but they will be going back, I believe, to streaming games for free. And it's just how it should be, because more people will watch and more people will enjoy watching it.
Absolutely. And like you said, that's the way it should be. And like, it'd be one thing if they were making you pay and then like the quality or what you were watching was maybe more like entertaining for somebody who's watching. I'm not gonna lie, I did end up paying for it all because UNI is not the shortest drive for me, so I can't just go up there and watch every single game from 8-man all the way up to 5A. But I ended up watching it, and it was the exact same as it was before. Same people broadcasting, same commercials, same like sponsorships. Like they have like what they call the Golden Rule Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Red Zone, which is like the red zone inside the 20 or whatever it may be if you're an 8-man. But nothing was different. So I would understand one thing if they're getting more sponsorships or something along those lines, but everything was the same. So if the WIAC wants to do something to where they make it a more like pleasurable watching experience, then maybe I could see that, because you got to cover those expenses somehow. But ultimately, if it's going to be the same, it shouldn't make a difference on if you pay or not.
Absolutely. And I know here at Simpson, we don't charge admission for any soccer games. So if a school in the WIAC is not charging admission to go to a soccer game in their conference tournament, I believe they format it the same way, where there's a host school and that's just the highest seed. If they don't charge admission, why should somebody have to charge to watch their live stream that I would assume the schools are still putting on, and it's not like the conference is bringing in new people? I'm not positive about that, but I would highly doubt that, because you still have multiple games going on at the same time. And I'm glad the WIAC is not forcing schools to do this year round. Like for regular season games, it will still be free to watch WIAC sports, but I just think it's ridiculous that you have to pay to watch D3 sports. Josh, you are a Wisconsin native. You know a little bit about WIAC sports just from when you were in high school. What are your opinions on this?
Yeah, I agree with you two completely. I can't wrap my head around why they would want somebody to pay to watch their tournaments or whatever. I mean, $10 a game, is that really bringing you in much more revenue? I can't understand the why as to why they are doing this. And there's only 2 other conferences in the nation that do pay-per-view. The Landmark Conference, they have an agreement with Flow Sports, and they don't even require pay-per-view. It can include pay-per-view, but it doesn't have to. And then the University Athletic Association just signed a 5-year media rights agreement with Flow Sports that can also include postseason events, but again, does not require them to be pay-per-view. So I know the WIAC is probably considered the best D3 athletic conference in the nation, but I just can't understand why they're doing it.
Now, do you think it has anything to do with that they're like state schools? Because obviously they're all University of Wisconsin schools, but just at a D3 level, I mean, this is in a joking way, but maybe it's to accommodate for the University of Wisconsin-Madison not having the season that they probably want to right now. Obviously, it's a little bit of a struggle up in Madison, but maybe it's something along those lines. I really would love to hear what they have to say. And then also with that, the commissioner of the WIAC is leaving this conference. They're going to join another conference. So I don't know if this new person coming in, once they get started, this is one of the things that they're trying to start that Danielle did not want to have, the commissioner of the WIAC. But I would love to hear what she would have to say about that, knowing that she left and immediately they're changing how they're going to perform and display their athletics postseasons.
Yeah, and I just think it's really interesting because the 2 conferences Josh mentioned too, the Landmark Conference as well as the UAA, both of those are very high-quality conferences as well in Division III for almost every sport. So it's really interesting to me the fact that it's these top-tier conferences doing it where they may prove me wrong, but I think viewership is just going to plummet. It might even cut in half or even more, because a typical person that, say, somebody lives in River Falls, Wisconsin, because I'd say River Falls is probably the community where they're closest to their college there. I might be wrong. I know Platteville is like pretty close with the UW Platteville community. Like the school and the community are pretty close together there. I know River Falls is like that as well. So if somebody that's from River Falls that wants to just watch an away game, like a conference semifinal, say, in men's soccer, and I don't know who plays what, but say they're the 4 seed, they're playing the 1 seed. And River Falls parents or River Falls community members are watching this game. They want to watch this game. They go and see, oh, I have to pay $10. I'm not going to watch that now. That just takes away a whole fan base where if they don't care really that much to pay that much money to watch a live stream, they're just not going to watch it. And I think that's why viewership's really just going to plummet.
Yeah, and I don't even know for football wise, like, do we even charge like in the American Rivers Conference? Is it even $10 to go to the game live? Like, let alone watching it in person, right?
I know here at Simpson it's not, and I think in football there's not a conference tournament, so I don't know if, say, this year Platteville is a host school for an NCAA playoff game. I don't know if they'll have to charge for an NCAA tournament game. That's something that will really interest me. But I know this is just at least for WIAC tournaments and championships.
Yeah, and thinking about this too more, if I was a UW River Falls person and I live in the community and I'm involved and I didn't feel like going and I see that it's $10 to pay, to me, I think that would make me want to go watch the game for free. If they do it free, I don't know. Obviously, we do it here in the American Rivers Conference. We host soccer games free. But that would make me want to go to the game and then give the school money if I'm hungry or something like that, where you would that money that you would be using to pay, you can just go get a hot dog and some water and go watch the game in person if you are able to.
Yeah, and I know in the American Rivers Conference, it's school by school, so I don't know who charges what, but I can guarantee no school is charging $10 to watch American Rivers Conference soccer game. I'm almost positive there's no WIAC school charging over $10 to watch a WIAC soccer game. So I don't know. I just don't think it's a good idea. I hope this is not the direction that a lot of conferences go.
Yeah, not to mention that most students at some schools, obviously we do it here at Simpson, they get in for free at anything. It doesn't matter if there's something to pay or not. Like, even if, like, say if soccer games charge $3 a person, it doesn't matter, because if you show your student ID, you're in, and that's it. But I don't know. I'm curious what the reasoning behind this was.
And I think that might be the one positive of charging for a live stream, is that it may encourage more students to go. But if you're not going to the game of your home team in the first place, you're not going to watch a live stream in your own dorm. So I don't know. I don't believe it's a good thing for the WIAC, and I don't think it will really benefit them. But that's all we have for Around Division III Athletics. And now it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Josh's Fun Fact of the Day. And Josh has got a great fun fact of the day for you. Josh, go for it.
All right. One of the most outstanding offensive linemen in the entire country, Caden Proctor, once did a backflip in Austin's pool at his house. Austin, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So my senior year of high school, I was teammates with Caden Proctor since 8th grade, so it has been 5 years playing with him. We had, on Wednesday nights, it was position meeting dinners at somebody's house, and I basically begged my parents, and I told them I would help in any way I can to host a dinner. With it being my senior year, wanted to have some fun with teammates and getting to know each other better, even though we've all been playing with each other for a long time. But it was a cold night. Like, it was like one of the first weekends of it was like the second week of the season. So like first week of September-ish, I'd have to go on a calendar and look. It was 2022. But anyway, he was talking, and we have a pool in our backyard. It's an above ground pool. It's nice during summertime, but it was cold because we had a very cold, like, end of August into September that year. I remember. I wish it was like that now, because we're just now starting to like feel the nice October fall weather. But people were getting in it anyways. Like, offensive linemen, they were just having fun. And so the way my house is set up, we have our pool, and then there's like a little hill that like leads up to the fence to get out. And he was like, I'm going to do a backflip out of in it and then get in the pool. So he started at the top of the hill here and ran down and then just straight up backflipped into the pool. And it was definitely made a big splash. That was for sure. I mean, I would love to see it now. I mean, it'd probably make an even bigger splash because he's on some muscle at the University of Alabama playing football. But honestly, it's kind of cool moving on to the like seeing it now, being one of his close teammates. I still talk to him like every week, like just how's it going, like talking to him about the game from the week before and what's next every once in a while. I mean, it's awesome to see as a former teammate of his that he's having so much success at Alabama as a junior, not to mention. And then knowing he's also doing a good job in the classroom, made the dean's list in the spring, believe it or not. And hopefully he can be a top 10 draft pick in the next draft here in 2026. I'll be recording every draft pick until he's drafted, and then the celebration will be something that you guys will probably want to put on our social media feeds because it will be crazy. That will be for sure.
Absolutely. Caden Proctor, likely to be a top 10 pick, guaranteed first round pick, I would say right now, unless there's some sort of very unfortunate injury for him. But really very interesting story there, Austin.
Yeah, and even then, he would have his senior year to boost his stock picks back up. But right now, I know he's the number one offensive tackle in the country. And then speaking of former high school teammates, Xavier Wampa, safety out of Iowa, huge interception in that game versus Penn State. Rob, I'm assuming you were watching that game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, obviously a great game. And real quick, shout out Penn State. Your coach gets fired, a guy that brought everybody into that building, and to go out after not many people really gave him a chance. Like they were favorites and not favorites, and they went into Iowa City, a very hostile Kinnick Stadium, and gave him a good run for their money.
Absolutely. A lot of high schoolers from Southeast Polk High School doing very good things. Xavier Wampa, Defensive Player of the Week in the Big Ten. And one of his biggest plays, a huge hit on former rival Jackson Smolik from Dowling. Was that the first time you've seen that, Austin?
No, absolutely not the first time. It was a different player, but actually a distinct memory of my junior year back in 2021. First game of the year, big game, WHO 13, a local station here in Des Moines, was at the game covering it for their new games of the week that they would broadcast. First half, Southeast Polk breaks Jackson Smolik's collarbone, believe it or not. And he was out until week 8 or so and came back against in-town rival Valley, and he went insane. Unbelievable game. He ended up getting knocked out by losing to Southeast Polk for a second time in the year in the quarterfinals, the game right before that Unidome season gets rolling. But yeah, it's awesome to see all these former CIML players making big time plays in the next level.
Absolutely. A great showing from Austin's former teammates there in college football, not just this past week, but all season long. Xavier Wampa, Caden Proctor, of course, Abu Sama as well for Iowa State, performing well. As we mentioned, Iowa high schoolers in the show a couple weeks ago, not just the small schools, but some of those big school Iowa guys playing in big school D1 football now. And it is just great to see Iowa high schoolers doing that well, as maybe some of them have roots from the American Rivers Conference or the Iowa Conference. You never know. Some of their parents might have played at one of those schools and they just stayed in Iowa. Definitely very likely to see. And that's all we have for you all today. Our first filmed episode of the Beyond the ARC podcast.
I'm Josh.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Rob. And that's how you do a podcast the
D3 way.
Beyond the ARC is an independent podcast and is not affiliated with or endorsed by the American Rivers Conference.